Hello, thank you for joining us at this Nemira Publishing House event. I'm thrilled to introduce to you Rebecca Serle, the author of the best-selling and delightful novel In 5 Years, which you enjoyed a year and a half ago. Hello, Rebecca.
Hi, so nice to talk to you.
We're gathered here today in this virtual screen to talk about the new novel we've translated into Romanian. It's called One Italian Summer, and the title and the book do not disappoint because indeed it's like a wonderful trip in Italy, which is perfect for the summer. And before we go into the story, like New York was in the previous novel, Italy and Positano in particular, his is also not only a background, but like almost a character. And it's pretty clear from how you wrote it, and we have a hint of that at the end, that you really saw the place and you tasted it and felt it. So what's your connection to Italy and to Positano, if you can tell us?
Yes, so I took a trip back to Rome with my mother in the summer of 2019. And my mom had spent this magical summer in Italy, in Rome and Positano when she was 20. And she fell in love with this man named Remo and just had this really magnificent summer. And we ended up finding Remo on Facebook. And they met at the Trevi Fountain, which is the place that they had met 50 years beforehand. And I got to video record the whole thing. And that was really sort of the inspiration for the book. That got me thinking a lot about the people that our parents, specifically our mothers, are before we ever come onto the scene of what if we could get to know them. And then after that time in Rome with my mom, I went on to Positano, and I was just so taken with the beauty of that place. I mean, and also the timelessness of it, right? Like there were so many places there that my mother had visited when she was there 50 years beforehand. Shea Black in the Marina, all of the boutiques that still make the same dress, lemon printed dresses. Like I was really taken by the fact that I was really walking the same streets and seeing the same sights that she had seen so many decades beforehand. And you know, One Italian Summer is really a story about coming back to life. It is a story about this young woman, Katie, who's just lost her mother. And you know, we meet her in this place of very deep grief. And so this book is really about coming back to life. And what better place to come back to life than in Italy?
Mm-hmm. You have this talent of taking unconventional love stories, let's say, and making them very meaningful, because, you know, in the previous novel it was about handling grief when losing a person that is very close to you, and here it's about the grief of losing your mother, but then, you know, getting to meet her, because that happens in the first first couple of pages. Getting to sort of meet her in this magical place as she was 30 years ago. Where did this idea come to you?
I mean, I think through that, you know, through that trip with my mother and seeing her, you know, seeing her with this old love and sort of seeing the person that she once was, like seeing the person inside of her. And I will also say that the year that I was 23, 3 of my best friends lost their mothers to breast cancer in the span of 8 months. And one of my dear, dear friends said very shortly after the passing of her mother, she said to me, you know, I miss all the ages and women that I never got to know. I miss her at 80, and I miss her at 16, and I miss her at 8. And that idea always stuck with me. The idea that you know, of course, people are many different eras of their lives. There are many different years. They're not just the people they are to us. And I think our mothers are such an extreme example of that, because we identify so strongly with them, and we cast them like, that's my mom. And so the idea of the humanization of her, of getting to see her as a real person, that's just an idea that has stuck with me for many years. And then when I actually saw my mom in Rome, it felt like, okay, it's maybe time to start writing.
I love it that it has this autobiographical note, and it started from, you know, your real experience. And as it happens in your novels, the characters are so relatable, and I love it that they're people at different stages of their lives. So how did you bring to life Katie and Carol?
I think, you know, Katie, like I said, when we meet her, is really a person who's in this state of deep grief. And she's someone who doesn't really understand her own power over her life. You know, I think one of the takeaways from the book, or at least one of the takeaways I hope that you will get from One Italian Summer, is that no one knows the blueprint of our life better than we do, not even our own mothers. And so Katie's journey is really to understand that she has conviction in her life, and she has autonomy over her life, and that her life is actually not just a product of the choices that her mother has made for her, but in fact the choices she's made for herself. And I think similar to Danny and Bella in 5 years, Danny is such a hard line type A person, and Bella is this just sort of like magical, whimsical, fly by night person. I think in a lot of ways, when we meet young Katie, she's somebody who just is like, she's so defined by the people around her. She doesn't have a very clear sense of self. And Carol is somebody who's just so vibrant and so fiery, but also shares that with Katie, is also trying to figure out who she is and what her role is in this world. So I think that this book is really about two women trying to navigate both themselves and their relationship to each other and what they both mean.
And what society or, the roles they're supposed to have, to be a mother, to be a wife, because Katie is also a wife, and she has to go on this journey that she had been planning with her mother to revisit Positano, which was the sabbatical, let's say, a few months of her mother's life. What was the reaction to this novel when the first people read it? Because I can't give too much away, but I just want to say that it becomes quite delicate towards the ending in what concerns the role of the mother and how many liberties a mother can take after becoming a mother. Is she still the woman she was before? So what was the reaction to the narrative?
I feel like I like to write books that are about interesting and complicated women, and I don't equate, I guess I don't give morality in the sense that we would conceive of it a tremendous amount of weight when I'm writing, because I think that good people make mistakes. And I think that our actions don't always define us. And I think that, I like to oftentimes externalize things that people are maybe going through in their own heads, and to make something concrete. And so I think that there's, I think the reaction has been so lovely. I'll just say that it's been really wonderful. I also don't think there's a tremendous amount of content about mothers and daughters. I also felt that way in 5 years, that there isn't a tremendous amount of content about intimate female relationships.
Friendships, yeah.
And I will oftentimes hear from readers who will say, is maybe Danny and Bella's relationship codependent? And I say perhaps, and same with Katie and Carol, and I'll say perhaps, but I just think we're so unfamiliar with seeing all of the complexity of what a relationship like that can look like, and how intense and intimate it is. I just think we don't get to see it that much. And this is part of it, is it's not perfect. And that's okay. Like, that's beautiful. That's a part of it. We're human.
Yeah. And another thing that is okay, although it might not seem so, is just going alone to certain places, because I could relate very much with Katie's beginning when she was realizing that she's alone for the first time in a trip on another continent. She's waking up alone, going down to have her coffee at the hotel. How was it to build that image of a woman who hasn't spent much of her life going on adventures by herself? But I think this is an incentive to make you feel that you can do that. It's actually okay to do that, and to come back to life on your own terms.
Yes, that's so beautifully put. Katie is a person who's been very defined by her relationships, being a wife, and primarily and particularly being a daughter. The number one way she defines herself is by being Carol's daughter, by being someone's daughter. So I think it was very interesting. And also, I will say, I really like to travel alone. I am an only child, my parents' only child, and I've also been single for a large portion of my life, and so I've spent a lot of time alone. And I feel like that was it was very helpful to me, because I could give Katie, like, I sort of was like, come here, as if Katie is a friend, saying like, this is how you do it. This is how you figure out how to be by yourself, and that there is a lot of beauty in sitting with yourself and not always having someone else to be in relationship with. Like there's a lot of beauty in just seeing what is right here.
That's very beautiful and inspirational, and I really hope that will be one of the takeaways, because in the public discourse, let's say, especially female solitude is sort of a taboo. I mean, if you're alone, there's nothing wrong with you. If you're sitting alone at a coffee or in a hotel, much less, there must be something wrong with you, and it's not. Maybe you just need that time for yourself.
Yes.
So this is quite the invitation to Italy and to Positano, which, I mean, it seems to be the greatest city in the world after reading this novel, but also an invitation to look inside yourself and to see the relationships between you and see how you define yourself, actually.
Yeah.
But I would like to end, because it will be almost summer when everybody watches this interview. I wanted to ask you if you got to go back to Positano or if you're planning to.
I am. I'll be back there. I mean, fingers crossed, and you know, world elements considered, I will be back there hopefully in July. So I'm very, very, very much looking forward to it.
Fingers crossed. I'm sure some Romanian readers will be reading your book while you're in Positano, which is a wonderful thought.
I love that.
Rebecca Serle, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So lovely to speak with you.
You too.